Welcome to college football coaching news. It is December 7th, 2025. We had some coaching news on yesterday. Unfortunately, I didn't get to do that yesterday, so I want to recap what happened on Saturday. Sunday, there's not a lot of coaching news as of recorded, so we'll get to those news that happened yesterday surrounding Charles Huff has found a new home, and Toledo has lost their head coach. So we'll start with yesterday's news. So big surprise. Actually, this one was an interesting hire. Charles Huff, the Memphis Tigers, are hiring Southern Miss head coach Charles Huff to be their next head coach. Now, Charles Huff only spent one season with Southern Miss and finished the year 5-7 in Southern Miss. Sorry about that. But remember, he left Marshall, which is a good school, to Southern Miss, and from last to first or last place to a good football team. Charles Huff did a tremendous job there. Did a lot of good recruiting, transfer portal, of course, including that incident with Tulane. Players opted to transfer to Southern Miss, which their head coach, it's now in Southern Miss. So now here we go. Memphis hiring Charles Huff. I think this is an interesting hire. Again, Charles Huff should be a very interesting coach for Memphis. You had South Florida's Brian Hartland. You had Neil Brown in North Texas. UAB's Alex Morstan. And now Charles Huff is the next head coach for Memphis. I'll give this an A minus. I think he's a good coach. I think he'll be a great recruiter to finding those young players from high school. Good transfer portal guy, because he is going to be looking at that transfer portal and looking at this team saying, okay, we're looking for this position. We're going to look for that position. I think Charles Huff can do it in Memphis. I think Memphis next year will be 8 American Athletic Conference champions next year under Charles Huff. I expect that. I think he's going to pull it off. Then UConn has found their new head coach. Jason Kendall, the Toledo head coach, is expected to become the next head coach of UConn football. He will replace Jim Mora, who left UConn to go to Colorado State. This is an interesting hire. If you go back to Toledo Rockets, they were a good football team when Jason Kendall was there. Jason Kendall spent his 11 years with Toledo, 81-44 record. This is an interesting hire for UConn. I feel like they're going to hopefully find a conference where they can win a conference championship game. And please, I want UConn and Notre Dame, which, again, those two need to have a conference. They can't be independent forever. But again, let's talk about it. Jason Kendall, don't know much about him, but all I know is that he has success in Toledo. He's won the MAC championships with Toledo, of course, had some great success right there. And now he's going to UConn, a program that it's going to be a lot of shoes to fill up. Of course, Jim Mora did a great job in his 4 seasons with UConn. I'm going to give this one an A. I think he will do something that what Jim Mora did, recruiting and transfer portal. I think he's going to do that. The only question will be who will his quarterback be? Will Joe Fantango still be in this team? And if he's not, where do they look at that transfer portal? So that being said, Jason Kendall now to UConn. So the jobs that are still open is Tulane, Washington State, Southern Miss, and Toledo. And I want to talk about that because Southern Miss is a huge loss because last offseason they hired Charles Huff to be their next head coach. 7-5 season in his first year, now leaves Memphis. So they're going to have to start looking for a new head coach, and that process is not going to be easy to find. I wish Southern Miss the best of luck. Toledo, best of luck for them. Washington State, again, I talked about this on December 5th. on Friday that Jimmy Rogers is now Iowa State's new head coach. So they're going to be trying to look for a current head coach or a coordinator that's going to have to come to Washington State, become the next head coach there. Tulane, still not anything about John Summerall's replacement. Of course, he's still going to be coaching Tulane during the playoffs. But whoever they find, they're going to have to find him as quick as possible, because if they can't find a replacement for John Sorrell, it is not going to be a good year for Tulane football. And I believe, yeah, that's it. That's the college football coaching carousel news, December 7th, 2025. Those hires were actually happened on Saturday, but I want to recap this to today because I did miss those hires that happened there. So I do want to apologize there. If you have not seen my other videos, go check them out on my channel. Of course, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell for more sports news.